matter. No. I was just going to get this. Okay, so we're starting a new thing that we're going to do here on Thursdays, because I know on Shabbat when I get up, everybody's like, I'm listening. I don't know exactly what's happening because I don't know Hebrew. So this session we'll do it at 6 from now on, right? 6. Okay, we're gonna do it at 6:30, and we're going to do something titled "You Already Know Hebrew." I know you're like in your mind like, yeah, right. Yes, you do, and I will prove it to you today. And so you'll get a composition book, and in the composition book it has just like a basic Hebrew writing. Keep this. You are going to be thoroughly surprised. Who doesn't have one? Everybody back here on one? Okay. You're going to be thoroughly surprised as we go through this what you already know. Okay? And I know you're like, we did this during Sukkot, so if you were not here, then you didn't get this experience. You didn't get this experience. Where by the second lesson, everyone that was there. Was it second or third lesson? The second? Second or third lesson, we read through the first 4 verses of Genesis.
Right.
The third. So we read through the first 4 verses. You're talking about people who, some people had never even seen a Hebrew letter before. So the advantage that you all have is that every week we're going through and you're looking at these letters. So on your composition book, write your name. So if I find it laying around, I'll be like, oh, that was you. And so what we're going to do today, just to prove my point that you already know Hebrew already, is to go through, and we're going to go through the alphabet. And we're going to go through these sounds, and then we're going to go through some vowel points, and we'll go through those sounds, and you'll see that you already know this information. Okay? All right, so if you have this chart, the reason why you're seeing it in this form is because this is how you'll write it. I've had a lot of people who were either messaging me or people in the congregation would say, okay, but what you're writing on the board doesn't look like what I have in my bulletin, right? Okay, so now you have one that looks like this block script. This is how you would write it. It keeps it simple, doesn't have all those fancy things on the top or whatnot, okay? We're going to start going from right. So we're going to go from the right to the left. All I'm going to do, you don't even have to recognize the sounds. All I'm going to do is I'm at the beginning. I'm going to start with the aleph. There's a couple of them that'll be a little tricky, but I'm going to start with the aleph, and we're just going to give the sounds. I'll give you a clue for all except for 3 of the letters, and then some other forms, we won't worry about those now. The sound is the beginning sound of the name of the letter, okay? So the sound in a composition book is the beginning sound of the name of a letter. Very, very simple. Okay, I'll give you a freebie. Aleph is silent. We'll get into why it's silent later. It doesn't matter. We are learning like children. Children don't ask questions like, well, that was shaped like this. They just remember it. When you try to get adult-like and you're like, okay, but that one has this little thing coming off right here. Why is that? No, it is what it is at the beginning. You have to kind of get this in your mind like a child. Okay, Aleph is silent. Everybody, Aleph is silent? Yeah. Okay, Bet. What's the sound for Bet? Buh. It's very, very easy. The sound for Bet is buh. Okay. The sound for Gimel is Guh. Right. The sound for Dalet is Duh. The sound for Hey is Huh. Huh. You're thinking too hard. Huh. Huh. Just huh. The sound for Zion is, the sound for Hey, Vav. Sound for Vav is Va or Wa. Va or Wa. Okay? And we'll get into the oo, but va or wa. Okay? The sound for Zion is z. Very good. Z, z. Okay? The sound for Het is it's the end of a word. So the word bak. Bach, like a k. It's like a k sound, like a, not a ch. It's not a ch. It's like Bach, like Johann Sebastian Bach. 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 That end sound, the k sound at the end. It's soft. It's just k. It's just there. Okay? The sound for tet is t. Very good. The sound for yod is yeah. Very good. Or yeah. The sound for kaf is very good. The final kaf makes the same sound. It just appears at the end of the word. So the sound for final kaf is ka. Very good. The sound for lamed is there's no We're just the sound of that first, like if you're doing your alphabet, right? Sound for mem is Sound for final mem is Very good. Sound for noon is right? Sound for final noon is The sound for stomach is
They sound the same.
It's exactly the same.
Noon and
Noon and final noon are the same.
No, mem and them too.
The final noon, we're children. Children don't ask questions like that. It's just the sound for final noon is Because if I explained it, it wouldn't help, right?
But mem sound the same to me as none too.
No, well if you said in, if I said and I said in, it's m and in. Right.
Okay.
We overthink as adults. What we're going to do is we're going to all the way regress. As adults, we overthink. We're like, these sound like the same. It's like, but you know an M and an N.
Right.
Right. You know an L sound, but you're like, it's a lamed, but it sound like, so it got to be something. It's the same sound. It's the same sound. Okay. All right. Samic is s. Very good. Ayin. Silent. It's another word that's silent. So ayin is silent. Pay, p. And it also has another sound. It makes the F. So sound. Okay. Final pay, p or okay. Zadi. This one's a little different because we don't use it a lot in our language. It's at the end. We see when you say ants, like A-N-T-S, that T-S sound, tss, ants, like that sound, okay? And then, where are we? Final zadi, same. Kof, it's like qua or ka, it kind of like both, but it's more like kof, ko, ko, ko. That sound. Resh, okay? Shin has two sounds. It has the shin and the sin sound. It can make the sh. Shin makes a sh sound, and sin makes a s sound. Okay, and tav, t, pronounced t. Okay. Out of all those sounds, not the letters on the page, but all those sounds, did you not know any of those sounds before right now? Were those all sounds that you have made your whole life? Yeah. Right? So then you already know Hebrew. The symbols that you're looking at are different, but those sounds are sounds you've heard your whole life. You are convincing yourself that something is harder than it actually is because the symbols on the page look different. See how that kind of like does this like weird thing to your brain? You're like, this is Hebrew, I don't know Hebrew, but if I said bat, what's the beginning sign in bat? You go buh. Okay. What's the beginning sign in bet? Buh. It's not hard, but there's this automatic block that we have because somebody goes, it's Hebrew. And because somebody is already ingrained in your brain that it's hard and I can't learn something new. You're not learning anything new. You've learned these sounds when you were a child. The genius of Yah to create the same sounds in the language of our captivity that's in the language that we were supposed to have. Brilliant. You could have ended up in China, where all the sounds are sounds you've never made before. Right? You could end up with a Mandarin. You could end up with a different, like with German, where these sounds are sounds you've never made before, but you ended up in a land where all the sounds that you were taught as a child are all the sounds are in the Hebrew language. Brilliant. Brilliant. Right? Kind of let that sink in. Okay, so what you'll do with this, and for people online, what we'll do is we'll upload this onto online. What you'll do is you will take these letters and you're going to write them. That's what that notebook is. When you write the letters, you're going to say the letters. Remember as a kid you would write A and you would say ah, and you would write B and you would say buh, and you would write C and you would say ka. Why? Because your teacher knew that if you wrote it and then said it, you would match the sound to a picture, because guess what? As a child, you didn't know what an A was. You didn't know what a B was. You didn't know what a C was, but you got a sound and then somebody matched that sound for you to a picture. The brilliant thing about Hebrew is now you already know the sounds, you just now have to match them to a picture. Does that make sense? I know it seems like it can't be that easy, but then you can read. It's that easy. When we read, we're gonna read just like little children read. What do they do when they see cat? So if I wrote cat up here and I got Jaden here or Ari, right? They would go cat, right? And then they'd say it faster, cat, right? They're using those pictures and deciphering based upon the sounds they've attached to those pictures what it sounds like. You guys, because you're adults, you're like, I can read, and you want to be able to pick it up and read, and if you can't just pick it up and read, you're like, I don't want to do it. Right. But the reality is you have to go like a child. The Hamashiach was not playing any games when he's like, you don't come like a child, there's no hope for you. Why would that even be something that was said unless that is a part of the learning process? Right? You have to come like a child. If you come trying to learn anything like an adult, it doesn't work. How many recipes do we mess up talking about I already know how to make cornbread, so I can make dressing. So you make cornbread and put sugar in it and then try to make dressing. Like, you know what? If you would just follow the instructions, you wouldn't have made that mistake. But you already think you know something and you add that into the mix and it throws the whole thing off. Right. Okay? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? You're like, I already know how to make spaghetti. But it was like, oh, but the recipe was actually for lasagna. So it's a little different. You need some ricotta cheese. Same general concept. Okay. So we talked about this kind of briefly at Sukkot as well. And we talked about this idea of vowel points. When we're writing in English, and I write a word like, I'll write a sentence. How about that? Let's do it like this. What does that say?
I can spell cat.
I can spell cat. Why can everybody read that with no vowels? Why is that even possible, right? Because you already know the words, and so you don't need the vowels for the words. Another thing that I believe is genius. Another thing that I believe is absolutely genius, and I know there will be those who will argue with this. I believe in captivity, Yahuwah used those vowel points to our advantage. When you already know the language, you don't need them. But let's just say maybe there was going to be a people taken to captivity, and maybe there's going to be a counterfeit people who are going to also not know how to read the language. So they were going to have to kind of put a couple of things back into place so that they could read, but actually it was for your advantage. Just maybe. Everybody's arguing about, oh, the Masoretes, and they put these vowel points, and they... But you don't know what those sounds would have been. Once you know these words, and these words become familiar to you, will you need the vowels anymore? No. See how, like, you have to just kind of like think of not only the deception, but how Yahuwah can use the deception of one person to the benefit of his people. Because we don't know where those sounds go. We know all the sounds, though, and I'm going to prove that to you right now. What are our vowel sounds in English? So then give me the sounds. Or I, oo, e. Are these sounds that are foreign to you? Or do you use them, or am I using them every time I talk? Do you think it's by chance that those vowel sounds are also the same vowel sounds that are present in the Hebrew language? Let's see. So you don't really need the vowel points because you already know the sounds. You just don't know where they fit in these words because you haven't been using these words.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to give you one. Something you guys see all the time, right? Let's pick one. Let's pick one. Let's pick one. All right. This is easy. For some people, me just writing this, you already know what I wrote. For some people, might have to sound it out. I'm gonna give you just a clue. Both these symbols, this little line and this little T-looking thing at the bottom, make an ah sound, like father. Ah. Can we all say ah?
Yeah.
Is that a sound you've never made before?
No.
No. Okay. So shin makes what sound? Okay. This makes what sound? Ah. This makes what sound? Buh. Bet makes a buh sound. This makes what sound? Ah. Okay. Maybe not write it next to there because it looks like a ta. Right down here, and I'll put it like this. Okay. And tav makes what sound? T. Okay. What does it say? Hebrew goes consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel, consonant to infinity. It's always that same pattern. So we're gonna go sh, ah, buh, ah, t. What does it say? Shabbat. You just read Hebrew. Why? All these sounds are sounds you've been saying your whole life. You just didn't know what it looked like. If I did this for every Hebrew word in Scripture, you would have no problem reading. Would you? No. Because you've been doing this your whole life. The symbol is the thing that's throwing you off. It wouldn't matter if I put a paleo shin right there. I'll do the same thing, but I'm just going to change it to what Moshe would have saw. He would have saw something like this. He would have saw, I bet, make sure I get it right, something like that. I can connect.
Like,
it looks like a G.
that's a pain. Oh,
No, that's a paleo.
You're right.
Okay. Same thing, same sound. It just looks different. But the sound behind this is sh, ah, buh, ah, t. Doesn't change. These sounds are sounds you've been hearing your whole life. Okay? Is that kind of like making a little more sense? So what we'll be doing until we can read, so by the third time we do this, we're going to pull out Genesis. And we're going to pull out Genesis 1:1, and we're going to read it next week. Next week. All I want you to do is remember those sounds and connect those sounds you already know to those pictures. Because next week, we're going to know all those sounds. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to give you guys, and I'll put it up for the people online too, a list of those vowel sounds. That A, E, I, O, U, they just have symbols matched to them. So you know all those symbols, you know all those sounds already. I'm just going to give you the symbols that tell you to say that sound. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll give you that, and I just want you to bring that. You don't even have to memorize those. All I want you to do is make sure you say those sounds when you write those letters, and then next week we're going to take that little sheet with the symbols, and we're going to go through, and I'll give you all the ones in Genesis 1:1, and we're going to read Genesis 1:1, and you're going to translate it because you already know Genesis 1:1 in English. Everybody knows Genesis 1:1 in English. You already know it. I'm just going to show you how it sounds in Hebrew. The sounds are just different. You already know it. Does that make sense? You guys kind of excited? Think I'm a little crazy? Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. We're done.